Well, talking about the Terragrunt, it's an interesting tool which you should use along with your Terraform code. So if you're trying to manage your infrastructure using Terraform, then I must say you should use Terragrunt whenever it's possible. When I started working with the Terraform, honestly, I didn't know that Terragrunt existed. So initially what I was doing, I was trying to prepare my code using Terraform, and I was trying to place those code into the different environment like development, test, staging and production. So the same piece of code I have placed into the all four different environment. And when I look from the programming perspective, then it's not a good practice to duplicate the code across the environments. So the next question comes like, how can you remove the code duplicacy inside your Terraform projects? And for that reason, we use Terragrunt. So Terragrunt is a tool which will help you to reduce the code duplicacy across your Terraform projects. Well, there are some other benefits of using Terragrunt, but removing the code duplicacy across your Terraform project is one of the coolest feature which I felt after using the Terragrunt. So what are the key takeaways from today's session? So we will start from scratch and we will first install Terraform. Then after that, we are just gonna install Terragrunt. And after installing both Terraform and Terragrunt, we are going to create an example where we are going to set up an EC2 instance running on AWS using Terragrunt. And for that, we are just going to use the EC2 module. So our code for creating an EC2 module will be common, and we will be using two environments. One is the development and second one is the testing or QA environment. So we will just set up this example. We will start an EC2 instance, and everything we are just going to do with the Terragrunt. So before we jump into the session, let's try to understand the example first. So here, this is the code for starting an EC2 instance, but this code is for Terraform, not Terragrunt. So as you can see, this is the code which you need to write if you want to start an EC2 instance. Okay, that's fine. But what if you want to start the same EC2 instance on development, testing, staging and production? So what you will do, you will just simply copy paste and you will change the parameters. Like for development, you might want to start a t2.micro, a small machine, but for QA you want to start a t2.medium, and for staging and production you might go with the t2.large. So you will just copy this piece of code and you will change the parameter of the instance type, and then you will just execute your Terraform code. So you are just trying to duplicate this code into the four different environment. So that's what I was trying to say. So using Terragrunt, we can improve this code and you don't need to copy paste the same code 4 times. Now the next question comes like, how can you implement the same EC2 implementation using Terragrunt? So for that, what we are going to do, we are just going to create a 2 environment. So if you are working with the Terragrunt workspace, then you need to create 2 directories, one for development and another one for testing. And each directory you need to create an HCL file that will contain your Terragrunt configuration. So just create 2 files inside each directory. And let's take an example for development SCL file. So I'll open this file, and inside that file, I'm just going to import the EC2 module because we just want to create an EC2 instance on AWS. So we are just going to use the module definitions so that Terragrunt can start or set up an EC2 instance, and we don't need to write those EC2 resource code inside our Terragrunt configuration. So the top 3 lines will contains the module definition which we are going to import from Terraform. So here we are taking the EC2, and just for another example, if you want to start an S3 bucket, or if you want to create an S3 bucket, then just replace the definition and use the S3 module over here. Next thing, if you want to change the parameters, like if you want to start a small instance, let's say t2.nano or t2.macro on development instance, then we are going to create some inputs variable inside this HCL configuration file. So this configuration file will be different for QA, so that you can supply the different parameter. Like for development, you are starting a t2.micro, but for QA you might want to start a little bit bigger instance, so you can supply like t2.medium over there. So these are the benefits you will get from Terragrunt. So you will be importing one module definition like EC2 over here, and after that you can just supply or tweak the parameters like which you want to start on AWS. So if you want to start small, then just supply those parameters. If you want to start a bigger instance, then supply those parameters. So this is just an example which we will be taking into the demo session, which we'll be seeing later. Also, with the today's session, I'll be sharing this guide where I have documented all the steps which is needed or which we will be performing throughout this session. So just feel free to use this guide whenever you are stuck and you want to just play around with the Terragrunt. I'll drop the link of the guide into the description section. And also, if you are just getting started with the Terraform and Terragrunt, then I have the first session where I have shown like how to install Terraform and how to get yourself started with the Terraform. So I'll drop the link of that first session into the description section also. So let's switch over to desktop and start with the Terragrunt. As you can see on the screen, on the left hand side, this is my terminal where we'll be playing along with our Terraform and Terragrunt commands. And on the right hand side, I have prepared this guide and I'll share the link of this blog post into the description section of this video. So we will be following this guide, and here I have documented all the steps which is needed for get yourself started with the Terragrunt. And whatever code we are going to write for Terragrunt, I have prepared a GitHub repository. So here, this is the Terraform topics. That's the name of my GitHub repository. So I'll mention the same Git repository link into the description section, so you can just go there and download all the codes which is I'll be showing into the today's demo. To start with, the first thing which we need is we need to install the Terragrunt, and for that we need to download the binary. So here is the link for the GitHub repository from where we can download the Terragrunt binaries, and based on your operating system like Windows or Linux, you can just download the respective binaries onto your local system. But before you install Terragrunt onto your system, there is a one prerequisite requirement that you need to install Terraform beforehand. And if you haven't installed the Terraform before, then you must install the Terraform before proceeding with the Terragrunt. So this is the instruction guide for installing the Terraform, and based on your operating system, just choose whatever the correct instructions are for you. So in my case, I'm working on a Ubuntu as my base operating system. So that's why I'm just going to choose the Ubuntu over here for installing the Terraform. And this is just a beginner session for a Terragrunt. So I just wanted to start everything from the scratch. So first of all, we will install Terraform. Then after installing the Terraform, we are going to install Terragrunt. Click on this link for following the installation instructions, and the first thing is you need to update the package manager. So just copy this command from here and paste it onto your terminal so that you can update your package manager definitions. After updating the package manager definition, the next thing which we need to do is we need to install the HashiCorp repository. So I'm just going to copy this command. I'll clear the screen over here and paste the command. Okay, that's been done. And after that, we are going to add that repository. So just copy this command from here, from the guide, and paste it over here. After adding the HashiCorp repository, the next thing which we need to do is we need to actually install the Terraform. And for that, the command is this one, sudo apt-get update, and after that apt-get install Terraform. So I'm just going to paste it over here and hit enter. It might take some time, so just be patient with the installation command. And now my Terraform installation has just finished, and the version which has been installed is 1.2.3. And also you can verify the installation of a Terraform by running the command terraform version. So that means you have successfully installed the Terraform. The next thing which we are going to do is now we are going to install the Terragrunt. Jumping back to our Terragrunt guide, the link which we need to open is the Terragrunt GitHub repository where we can download the binaries which is needed for installing the Terragrunt. So this is the GitHub repository where they put the release information along with the latest binaries released for Terragrunt. So these are the binaries. So just choose whatever the correct version based on your operating system. Since I'm using the Linux system, so I'm just gonna use the Linux AMD 64. Right click on it, copy the link and go to your terminal. Just use the command wget, paste the URL and hit enter. So it will just download the Linux binary onto your system, but also you can just simply click on it. If you are using the Ubuntu desktop version, then just simply click on it and it will just download it for you. One more thing I forgot to mention. So this is the terminal, and this terminal is my virtual machine, which I generally use for the demonstration purpose. So that's why I'm using this terminal. Otherwise I would have done the same demo on my desktop. But this virtual machine is so handy so that I can destroy after the demo. That's why I'm just using all this command line commands for installing the Terragrunt and Terraform. Moving further, now we have downloaded the Terragrunt binary. Now we need to rename it to Terragrunt. So I'll clear the screen over here and I'm just gonna run the command. And here you can see this is the Terragrunt Linux AMD 64 which we have downloaded. So we need to rename it. So what we're gonna do, we are just gonna use the command move, and I'm just gonna mention the actual name of it, and then after that I can mention Terragrunt. So it is just gonna rename the file, and I can verify it by again running the ls command. So here you can see we have renamed the file, and after that we are just going to move this file to the user bin directory. Okay, but before that we need to change the permission. So I'm just going to use the change mode command, and after that u+x, I just wanted to make it executable, and after that the name of the file. That's been done. And after that we are just going to move that file to the user local bin directory. So I'm just going to copy this command and go to your terminal and paste it over here, hit enter. Permission denied, so I'm just gonna need to use the sudo over here, and that's been done. You can verify the installation of a Terragrunt by running the command terragrunt -- version, and it should tell you the latest version which we have installed, that is 0.38, and you can verify it from the release page also. So this is the latest version we have used for installing the Terragrunt. Moving further, the next question comes like, how should you write your first implementation of your Terragrunt? So for that, what we are going to do, we are going to take an example where we are going to start an EC2 instance on AWS using the Terragrunt. And for that, we are going to use our workspace. So first of all, we are going to see how our project workspace for Terragrunt looks like. So if you scroll down further the guide, then you will find a screenshot of my project structure, which is over here on my IntelliJ, which I have already opened. So this is the project workspace of my Terragrunt, but I'll explain you first. So if you switch back to the guide, then here you will notice that there are two folders. One is dev and one is test environment. So as I explained you earlier into the slide when I was explaining the Terragrunt, so whenever you work with the Terragrunt, then you need to define certain environments, because you want to execute a piece of a Terraform code, which is a single code, but it needs to be executed differently on a dev environment as well as the test environment. So that's why I have taken an example where I have created a workspace for Terragrunt, and inside that workspace you will notice there is a folder that is called dev, and there is one more folder called test. But in actual scenario, there might be multiple environment, like a development environment, test environment, staging environment, and production environment. So this is a very basic approach while working with the Terragrunt. So just create first of all the folder structure based on the different types of environment which you have in your current workspace. The next thing, the example which I'm taking today is to start or to set up an EC2 instance on AWS. So for that, what you need is you need to fetch the module definition, because Terragrunt itself doesn't store or doesn't create those kind of information which is needed to start a EC2 module. Although you can write your own configuration, but it is always recommended to use the predefined modules by Terragrunt. So here is a link for EC2 module. If you click on it, then it will redirect you to this page, and this is the page where you can download the module definition, or you can just copy the module configuration which is needed to start a EC2 module. So if you go over here, then you will notice that this is the module definition or a module configuration which is needed to create an EC2 instance. So you can simply copy this configuration. I'll explain you how to put this information into your Terragrunt configuration, but just so you know that Terragrunt work on a module configuration. So to work with Terragrunt, you need to define modules, and what I mean by modules, there could be a module for EC2, there could be a module for S3 bucket, there could be a module for a VPC. So these are just an example to work with a Terragrunt. So that's why Terragrunt doesn't store that much information, but it just stores the configuration which is needed to fetch the module. Okay, let's jump to our IntelliJ and see how this has been written. So this is my Terragrunt project, and inside I have created dev and test folder. Open the dev environment, and there you will find a terragrunt.scl file. So this is the important file. Whatever folder or whatever environment specific folder you are creating it for Terragrunt, then you need to place a terragrunt.scl file. So this is the file which will contain all the configuration which is needed for that particular environment. So I'm just going to open that file, and once you open this file, this is a very basic file, but in production and stage environment you will find a very complicated and very long Terragrunt configuration file. But just to keep the thing simple, so as I explained you, we need to pull in, or we need to fetch the module definition, and you need to know like what kind of a modules you want to work with. Since I want to work with the EC2 module, so that's why over here you will notice I am fetching the EC2 configuration or the EC2 module configuration, and this is the source which I have already defined over here. And if you go back to our browser where I have shown that configuration, so this is the EC2 module configuration and the version is 4.0.0. so the same thing you will find it over here. So Terragrunt will fetch that module configuration or module definition which is needed to start an EC2 instance. So that's why you need to mention it on top of your terragrunt.scl file. Similarly, if you are working with the S3, then just fetch or just find the correct configuration which is needed to fetch the S3 module configuration from the Terraform. So that's the first line you need to write inside your terragrunt.scl. Moving further, there is a locals. The locals are pretty much same as that of Terraform locals, but I'll explain the locals later, because that will be needed into the later section where we will be writing the provider and the input blocks. So the second important thing is you need to define provider. But provider is just an optional thing. Either you can put the provider definition, or either you can create your own provider.tf file. So here I have just created this provider configuration. So this is the syntax which you need to use. And in case if you don't want to create a provider, then also you can create a provider.tf file inside your Terraform project or inside this dev directory also. It is also going to entertain, or it is also going to use those provider.tf configuration also. But if you read the line number 17 over here, if exist, then it is going to overwrite. So that means this is the Terraform provider configuration which you put generally inside your provider.tf file. But in case you want to override it, then you need to put this line over here. If exists, then overwrite with Terragrunt. So this line will going to overwrite all the provider definition if there is a provider.tf file available inside the dev directory. So it is just going to overwrite it, and I just wanted to overwrite it. That's why I have used this configuration. So this is the provider configuration, and I can show you the old example of mine. So this is the example which I have taken previously. So here in the provider configuration, you need to define the reason, your access key, and the secret key. So these are the minimum requirement which you need to provide inside the provider. So here I'm just putting the same thing and overriding it. So in case if there is a provider.tf available, so it is just going to override with this our custom definition. So here I'm using the profile, reason, and the shared credential. Shared credential file is just a simple file which contains your AWS access key and the secret key. So instead of this, I'm just using the credential file over here. So this is the second important block which you need to define inside your terragrunt.scl configuration. Also, we can parallelly compare our Terraform code without Terragrunt so that you can have a difference like why we need to use the Terragrunt. So here, this is the Terraform code without Terragrunt. So here you will see you need to define the provider, that is AWS, because you are working with the AWS. After that, you need to define the reason, access key, and the secret key just to get to access your cloud environment. Secondly, you need to define the resource. Since we are going to create an EC2 instance, that's why we have defined this EC2 as an example, or the resource block over here. Then you need to define the AMI, and then you need to define the instance type, that is going to be our T2.micro or medium or large. And after that there is a tag, and these are the variable. So this is the variable, here this is the variable. So here we are just using t2.medium. So this is a very basic Terraform code. So here we have hard coded quite a lot of things. So here you can see we have hard coded t2.medium, and if I want to use t2.large in our stage environment, then I cannot rely on this code. I need to update this code and make it as a t2.large. But what Terragrunt helps us is that you don't need to change your Terraform code. You can have that once you have written the Terraform code, you don't need to change it. We will provide those configuration from Terragrunt, and here you can define the inputs for that. So here we are defining the instance type over here. So instance type is defined over here in the locals. So that's why I have said I will explain locals later, but here in the input blocks you can define what you wanna send into your Terraform code. So here we are going to send the instance type. So if you want to start a EC2 instance that is micro, then you can send it over here into this one, and it will just create a EC2 instance. So you don't need to hard code this value at all. Similarly, if you want to execute the whole thing into stage environment, then you can change it and you can make it as a t2.large, and the same Terraform code will be executed with a t2.large. So those are the benefits you will get with the help of Terragrunt. Okay, moving further, after explaining the provider block, the next block is the inputs block. So here I'm just going to define the machine ID, because whenever you work with the AWS, you need to, or if you are using the EC2 instance, then you need to define the machine ID. So I'm just using this machine ID, and after that we need to define the instance type. So for development purpose, we have created a local variable, and that you can find it over here. So here you can find the local variable, which I'm fetching it from YAML, that I will explain it later. So that is a one more level of extraction. But in case if you are not interested in defining a local, then you can just simply hard code it over here also. So you can simply put a double quotes, and you can just put t2.micro, and that should work. Sorry, I'm just making a typo here, but this is the idea. So, and if you want to change it for a test environment or stage environment, just change the value, and that will start the more higher powerful CPU. So that's the idea behind the input block inside your Terragrunt. I'm just going to revert my changes over here. Okay. One more thing. Yep, that's been done. If you follow along the guide, then I have explained all the things in the details over here also, like what is the module, what is the provider details, and after that how to use the AMI tags and the locals and the variable, so that you can just go through in the guide also. The next thing which we need to know is like what are the commands if you want to execute your configuration. So the commands are pretty simple: Terragrunt plan, Terragrunt apply, Terragrunt output, and Terragrunt destroy. So these are the very basic commands which you need to know to execute your Terragrunt configuration. Before running any command, make sure you are into the correct directory where you want to work. So I'm into the dev directory because I just wanted to apply my dev configuration onto our AWS environment. So switch to the correct directory before you run any kind of a Terragrunt plan or apply command. Let's run our first command, and the first command is going to be Terragrunt init command. Now the next command which we are going to run is the Terragrunt plan command. So copy this command from here, go to your terminal and paste it over here. So this command is just going to validate and tell us like how many resource which we are going to add, update, or delete. So here you can see it has executed and it is saying like one resource to be added. So Terragrunt plan command is pretty much similar to the Terraform plan command. So it is not going to execute anything, but it's just going to tell you that we are going to create or change or destroy the resources. So this is the information which you will generally get from Terragrunt plan command. Moving further, the next command or the actual command which we are going to run is the Terragrunt apply command. So this is going to create an EC2 instance onto our AWS environment. So copy and paste it over here and simply hit enter. So it might take a minute or so. So I'll be back once this Terragrunt Terragrunt apply command is just finished. Now it is asking for a confirmation. Do you want to perform this action? So I'm just gonna say yes, and I'll just wait again. Now my Terraform apply command has just finished, and you can see over here the message says one added. So that means our one resource has been added, and that resource is going to be the EC2 instance. So let's switch over to AWS console. So this is my AWS console for EC2, and here you can see the one instance is running. Click on it. And here you can see the label which I have put it over there is the Terragrunt tutorial EC2. And you can verify the same thing from our development Terragrunt SCL. So Terragrunt tutorial EC2. So that means we are able to create an EC2 instance using this module and running the Terragrunt commands. So this is how you are going to create the resources or provision the resources on AWS using the Terragrunt. Also, parallelly, what we are going to do, we are going to take one more example of a test environment, and I'm just going to open the Terragrunt SCL over there. And here we are going to start one more EC2 instance so that you know what we are talking about and how you can manage the different environments with the Terragrunt. So here I'll just hard code it. I'm just not going to use the variable. So the variable name I can put it is like a t2.micro. Okay, and the tag name which I'm using over here is the test, so that we can identify that it is from test environment. And although I have not put any specific tag, so the development tag is this one, Terragrunt tutorial EC2, but for test we have put a prefix that is test. So we are just gonna apply this configuration and just gonna test it out, like how you can execute the same piece of code. So here you can see we are still using the same EC2 module. We are not just going to write the actual provider or EC2 resource. We are just using the Terragrunt or Terraform modules to provision the EC2 instances using Terragrunt. Okay, so just check the directory where you are. So right now I'm currently on a dev directory, so I need to switch to test directory. So I will just jump one directory up, and after that I'm just gonna switch to my test directory, check again. So yeah, I'm inside my test directory, and after that the first command which I'm gonna run is Terragrunt init command. Now my Terraform init command has just finished. I'm just gonna clear the screen. The next command I'm just gonna run is Terragrunt plan command. And here you can see it is saying like one resource to be added. So yes, we are just going to create one resource. After that, I'm just gonna clear the screen. The next command I'm just gonna run is Terragrunt apply command. And I'll be back once the Terragrunt apply command is just finished. And here you can see there is only one instance onto AWS console that is from development environment, and we are just going to start one more instance. Here it is saying to confirm. I just say yes, and now I'll be back once this is ready. Now as you can see over here, my Terragrunt apply command has just finished, and it has just started an EC2 instance with this tag. So I'm just going to refresh the AWS EC2 instance dashboard. Oh wait, so here I have used the EU West 1 region. So I have started a test instance into the different region of AWS. So this is right now it's a central region. So that's why I can't see the another instance. So I need to switch the region. So that's what you can see in the orange color. That's the current region I am in. So I need to switch to West 1 region. So I click on it. And here you can see this is the test 2 instance. So that was one thing which I didn't mention earlier. So we are running the test instance in EU West region, as well as on the other hand side the development instance into the EU Central region. So here is our test EC2 instance which we started using the Terragrunt. So that's also one of the good example like of using the Terragrunt, like you can provision. So here you can see EU West 1, and in the development I can see EU Central 1. So you can provision the resources into the different region, just specifying the provider block and changing few of the parameters. So this is how one example like to manage a different environment using Terragrunt. The next concept in the Terragrunt is the common environment YAML. So as you can see over here, so if I close all this, so this is my Terragrunt project, and here I have put a common environment YAML. So why do we need the common environment YAML? So suppose you have a different environment, but there are some variables which is common throughout your environment. So in such scenario, you're just going to create this common environment YAML. The name should not be common environment. You can put any name of your choice, but it just to keep the thing simple, I have made the name as a common environment YAML. And here I have mentioned the variables which I want to be a common between the development as well as the test environment. So once you specify the variable inside this YAML, then you can refer to that YAML inside your Terragrunt SCL. So here, this is the common environment YAML which I just wanted to include, and I need to use the function find in parents folder. So that means it is going to look inside this parent folder. So dev is the child folder while Terragrunt EC2 is the parent folder. So it is going to look into the parent folder for YAML, and it is going to fetch that into a variable that we have declared as an environment variable, and then it is going to use inside over here. So this is where it is going to use that variable for assigning the instance type. So this is also one example which I told you, like I'll explain it later. So this is the way you can use the common environment YAML to provide some common variable across your environment. And after you're done with the work, then you can simply issue the command terragrunt destroy, and that should destroy all the resources into your different environment. So it will take some time to destroy all those resources. So I think that's not necessary part. I'll just clean my development environment. So that was our first session on how to get yourself started with the Terragrunt. I hope you liked the today's session and the demo. And if you have any question related to the today's session, then please put down into the comment section. I'll try to get back to you. And if you are interested into the similar content on DevOps, then considering subscribing to this channel where I keep on sharing the similar concepts on a weekly basis. So see you into the next session of our DevOps. Till then, take care and bye bye.